Hi and welcome to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nusky and today I'm sitting here with Andrew Locke from Help My Business. How are you, Andrew?
Good, thanks, Rick. Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, look, thank you very much for coming on the show today. I've been waiting for this call. It's been, one thing or another that sort of kept us from having the call a little earlier. And I know how busy you are. So for everyone who's listening and you don't know much about Andrew, let me just tell you that he's been seen on CNN, BBC, Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC. He speaks around the world at many different events, of which I was fortunate to see a recent one in Manly, New South Wales. How was that show for you, Andrew?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, James Franco event, good gathering of entrepreneurs and business owners, which I always enjoy.
Yeah, look, and what I found is that you are so entertaining. Is that something that just comes naturally to you? I mean, by comparison, I'm fairly dry. I'm fairly dry and fairly technical, and I wonder is that a skill that you have to hone?
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely think you have to hone it, but I think, you know, fundamentally, I think it is important to entertain, especially when there is a sort of a fairly dry topic like growing a business, which
Yeah.
can be, it can be boring depending on who presents it. So, I try and sort of spice it up a little bit, add some humor in there, and which generally goes down well. But yeah, it's something that I think has developed over the years.
Yeah.
I like to have fun.
You definitely do. I recall sitting there in the front row of James's event, and with your glasses on and the kangaroo the year before and the hats and all the hoo-ha that you bring to the event. And prior to this, I'd heard a little bit about you, and I'd seen you at the previous year's event on video, and there's just nothing that can really replace being there, is there? I mean, you've got to really be there to get that sense of occasion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a big fan of live events. And yeah, I think, anytime that you get an opportunity to learn from other people that are doing good things and also hang out with other entrepreneurs who understand what it's like to build a business, that's very valuable. And, because it can be quite lonely, and especially if you have, a family where they don't really understand what you do, and, they sometimes aren't as supportive as you would like.
Yeah.
So it's really great to be able to be with like-minded people where, you don't have to explain a lot because, you sort of each understand what each other is going through.
Yeah, definitely. I'm at this. You mentioned how it can be very lonely. I seem to feel that a lot of entrepreneurs who at least come from a corporate background feel that they're in a very risky environment, and they want to go back to that safe place. What would you say to people that are trying to go out on their own? Do you have any advice for them?
Well, I think it does require someone to be a certain type of person. I think someone can develop into that type of person, but I think there needs to be an awareness that with every type of work, there's pros and cons. And, when you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be self-motivated for one thing. No one's going to push you out of bed in the morning.
No, definitely
other
not.
than yourself. And so that's one thing, and it takes time and hustle to build any business. So, you've got to believe in what you do. You've got to be willing to go through the ups and downs. And there will be, times when it's frustrating and times when, you feel like you may not, you may not make it. But that goes with the territory. So, there's the safe course of getting a job and sort of being able to switch off at the end of the day. But, there's just some people that don't fit in well with the traditional work environment, and who feel that they have a burning passion to either bring an idea to the world or to that they want to be their own boss. There's different motivations for being an entrepreneur, but it is it definitely requires quite a bit of self-discipline and determination and persistence, which are quite different qualities from someone who is an employee.
Yes, yes. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, that a lot of this is inside of, in our minds, isn't it? This is a mindset game.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It all starts with mindset.
Yeah.
It's I forget who said the quote, but whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
You're right, yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are sort of envious of entrepreneurs, and they look at all of the positives of the time flexibility and things like that, but there are a lot of sacrifices that have to be made, especially in the early days, which are easy to overlook. So it's not an easy life, but for the right person who is willing to be persistent and has the right mental attitude, there's a lot of rewards. There's a lot of plus sides to it.
I'd love to circle back on that a little bit more, but we generally like to talk a little bit about you as an individual and find out what you enjoy doing in your downtime. I guess, do you have any downtime, and where are you? And tell us a little bit about Andrew.
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from England, and I moved to the States in 2003, and I live in Los Angeles now, which I love. It's very similar weather to Sydney, I would say. Most of the year it's quite bright and sunny, and I've always been an entrepreneur. And you asked about downtime. Yeah, I absolutely have downtime. I would say maybe 5-6 years ago, I would describe myself as a workaholic, and I managed to sort of get through that to a place where I realized that I was a workaholic. And since then, I've tried to be a lot more balanced about time. And I found that, being more balanced and spending time on activities, things like travel, which I love, traveling the world and experiencing new places, new cultures, new food, and all of those good things. It definitely has made me a lot happier, So, when you're very passionate about something, then it's not difficult to become a workaholic. But, it requires discipline. And I do think that being balanced is a far better place to be than being a workaholic. And, I've experienced both sides of the equation. And so I say that, as someone who has been there on both sides of the coin.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people, personal friends who have quite successful businesses who are caught in this trap of creating a lifestyle that requires a constant work focus and getting new clients and things like that. So I guess the takeaway here is to understand that there is more to life than just business. This is a one-shot deal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people that work extremely, work all the hours, and this is not exclusive to entrepreneurs, of course, but anyone that works all the hours and for decades after decades can quickly come to a realization in their later life that what was the point?
Yeah.
Money is only sort of relevant if you spend it on something. And a lot of people have sort of lose sight of that they work for work's sake, and sometimes miss their children growing up, or miss spending time with a partner, or
Yeah.
lots of things that excuse me, got a bit of allergy here.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that really are can be objectively looked at as a negative consequence. And life is short, so
Yeah. Well,
I always encourage people to enjoy the journey rather than looking at work as a destination.
yeah. Money's the means to an end. It's not the end in itself,
Yeah,
is it? So,
yeah.
I I do recall you having a bit of a struggle with your allergies during the show. Is that something that's bothered you for a long time?
Yeah, it's based on food allergies. I'm actually seeing an allergist at the moment to try and get to the bottom of it. It's an unusual thing to have this cough
Yeah.
based on food allergies, but that's the root of it. So I'm working through,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. Just as an aside.
Yeah, yeah.
No. So since Manly in when was it? March,
Yeah, March, April, yeah.
April, somewhere around there. Where have you been since then? Did you go straight back to the city of Angels or elsewhere?
Um, let's see. Shortly after that, I went to Thailand for the first time,
Mm.
to Bangkok. I was doing some speaking out there and thoroughly enjoyed that. Because I enjoy speaking. I enjoy meeting other entrepreneurs, and I also hadn't been there before, so that was it was a whole new experience. And yeah, it's fascinating. I really enjoyed it actually.
Oh, wow. It's one thing, to sit in the crowd because you're in this safe place watching the speaker, and I always think to myself, how do they do that? How do they get up there with just that energy and that that passion for what they're doing? Is that what drives you to get up there? Was speaking always natural for you?
It wasn't always natural by any means. In fact, growing up, I would definitely describe myself as shy,
Mm.
and an introvert. But just something clicked, and part of it was being very passionate about the topic and helping others who are small business owners and entrepreneurs. And so I've come to be better at it, and I've also come to enjoy it very much. So yeah, it's a funny thing, it's definitely it definitely evolved for me. Like I say, there was a time when I was absolutely not comfortable
Mm.
doing it, but now, yeah, I really enjoy it. I enjoy sharing these things with other people, and you know um, making sure that they have a good experience when they learn about new concepts.
Yeah.
Obviously I teach some niche topics, but yeah, whatever it is, and ultimately I just like to have fun with it. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me to relax a lot is, I'm not I'm mainly focused on making sure that the audience learns, and I'm also focused on myself having fun with the process, and that seems to work well
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah.
I guess everybody's different, but yeah, I found what works for me, and so it's been quite a transformation actually.
When I was listening to you, what I found is I took in a lot more because I was actually enjoying the ride. It's not.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
It's back to the school years, and you think to yourself, A plus B equals, whatever, and it's very
Yeah.
dry and boring. I think having this entertaining value really changed the experience for me, and I never got around to really saying thank you. So it was.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
it was a real pleasure.
Yeah.
So when we look at your background, you were in your past a BBC cameraman. Is that correct?
Yeah, so originally I was behind the camera, and that's one of the reasons why I never uh, pictured myself on the other side, as a presenter,
Yeah.
Either on TV or, speaking. But that's exactly what has happened. And um, I think, well, I mean, I can tell you sort of in brief what happened. After that career, I got into, through being in the entertainment industry, I was managing a celebrity, and in the latter part of his career, and TV celebrity.
Yeah.
And as part of that, I was involved in him being on a lot of TV shows, so I got to witness the both sides of being in the production and also being a presenter and a guest on various shows. And which was really fun for me. And in 2003, like I said, I decided to move to the States, and so I was sort of looking at a different direction. And it was at that time that I discovered this whole new world of online marketing. And there was a guy that I was following, Russian immigrant in the States, called Yannick Silver. And it was he had advertised an event which I was very interested in and keen to attend. And is the fact that there's the ability to have very niche topic content, which isn't viable on traditional TV. So, if you look at a topic like, let's say, Asia travel, for example, someone that's interested in that specific genre of travel, well, it's not viable to have a TV show dedicated to that topic, but it would be with an online show.
So
another big benefit is the ability to reach a global audience. Traditional TV networks like, the ones in Australia, for example, their limit to who they can reach is within Australia.
Yes, definitely.
They have geographic boundaries, but online, it's anyone with an internet connection. So these are some of the reasons why online TV is the wave of the future.
Yeah, I see also another benefit, but possibly a problematic one, is the low barrier to entry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true.
And I think to myself, if that be the case and everybody's doing it, there must be a lot of noise out there. How did you work through that? Did you just ignore everyone else and what they were doing, or were you aware of what they were doing and just did what you did anyway?
Well, when I started, there really wasn't a lot of competition, but over the years that I've been doing it, in the last decade or so, we've got to a point where there is a lot more content. But one of the good things about the internet is that the ability for users to rank or rate content is always there. It's very easy for them to do that, and so the good stuff does rise to the top, whether it's through an official ranking chart or through word of mouth, or through comments or other rating systems. So it's one of those things where it is it's if what you have is very good, then it's and you're reasonably proficient at marketing, then it is going to get noticed.
Well, there's the thing. There's the takeaway for listeners today, is to produce quality content, because anybody can put out rubbish quite rapidly nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it is. In terms of audio versus video, I'm seeing this shift towards podcasting. Is, in your preference, video shows better than or equal to just purely audio podcasts?
Well, it's a good question. There's, and I probably am a little bit biased, but my take on it is, let me just take a drink here.
Yep.
My take on it is that podcasts have always been somewhat niche in their demographic that they appeal to. Podcasts have been around longer than video content online, for mainly because the bandwidth is a lot less, and it was a lot easier to produce them.
Yeah.
So, but what the stats show is that the people that like podcasts are not what you would call mainstream or globally. They're somewhat of a niche audience, in the same way that not everybody likes to use a Kindle type e-reader, for example.
Yeah.
So as an example, there's people that like to listen to audio while they drive, or there's people that like to listen to it while they run and things like that, which tend to be very specific demographics or groups. The rise in popularity of podcasts has been relatively slow. It's been significantly improved in the last couple of years through some very famous popular podcasts like Serial was one that did a lot for awareness of podcasts. But if you contrast that with video, it's a bit like the difference between radio and TV. TV has always had the edge because it engages more senses. For whatever reason, really, it's always had more popularity.
Yeah.
So, or since the time that both have been equally available. And the same thing is true online. There's much more awareness and consumption nowadays of online video compared with podcasts. Have a niche, very passionate audience, but the mainstream global internet user is far more aware of video, and they're much more likely to consume video content. That's what the stats show.
Yeah.
And so, video, audio has its place. I do have an audio podcast for that demographic, but I feel like video, for the reasons I mentioned, is much more exciting. It's where the huge growth is happening.
Well, because if you look at, if you're making them publicly available via YouTube, is it not true that YouTube is the second largest search engine globally?
That's right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
I have a tendency to follow the leaders in the field like James, and what I've noticed that he's been doing, and so have we, is that he has turned his podcasts into YouTube videos and had something of a slide deck walking you through the podcasts. And not only,
Very smart.
yeah, it is very switched on. So we've been starting to make them available through syndication, through iTunes, as you obviously do from your website, as well as the YouTube format. Same podcast or same interview, but sliced up and delivered two different ways, which I thought was quite smart. So when we talk about your business, has it always been the same as what it is now? At the moment, it's helpmybusiness.com. Has there been an evolution towards this business model?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When I first started, my first sort of foray into the world of marketing was through eBay, which was certainly much more popular back then than it is now. I mean, it's still a popular site, but it's a shadow of what it was.
Yeah.
Initially through learning to sell on eBay, and then I developed an unusual way to use eBay as a lead generation tool.
Oh.
And so that was sort of my first, chapter one, let's say.
Yeah.
And from there, I got into creating and selling some niche-specific business training courses on different topics. And, one of the things was teaching people to do what I had discovered on eBay. And from there, the next chapter was the development of the online show. And as a spin-off of that, marketing-related newsletters, membership sites, live events, and various things like that. So that's the evolution.
So there seems to be a content marketing strategy focused on marketing, which sort of dovetails nicely into what My Future Business is focused on, which is the development of systems to help small businesses. Do you have a lot of structured business systems internally that help you deliver this, or is it just a one-man band, or is it you and Chris only? How does that all work in the background?
Again, I've been through an evolution of different scenarios. There was a time when I had quite a few employees, and there was a time when I've used quite a few outsourcers. One of my, and I don't think there is a single right answer for this, because I think it depends on what your priorities are. But for me, one of my priorities is to be a lifestyle entrepreneur where, you know, in contrast to the time when I was a workaholic. Nowadays, I try to be much more balanced, and I want to travel a lot. I want to be free. I don't want to have to be required in an office every day. And, you know, because of that, I've designed a much simpler business that doesn't require a staff. And, you know, I do still use outsource workers for projects and tasks. But yeah, like I say, that's my preference because of wanting to be a lifestyle entrepreneur where, you know, the work is to, you know, so that I can be have a balanced lifestyle. You know, so some people view success as having a lot of employees or having a lot of money. But you know, I my definition of success is different. It's freedom. And you know, it's not about a specific dollar figure. It's to me, success is all about, you know, do I have freedom of choice to do what I want to do when I want to do it?
Yeah, of course. Do you, when you talk about those things, was there an investment in your time to set up training and standard operating procedures for your outsourcers?
Yeah. There's always an element of that's required, and you know, I think I would describe myself as a recovering perfectionist too. So I you know, I've had to learn to let go and rely on other people where, you know, often something isn't done to the standard that I would ideally like it to be done, but it's done without me having to do it. So that's one thing. And one of the other things I've discovered is that sometimes things are done to a higher standard than what I could do, because there are people that are specialists in things that I'm not a specialist in. So that's important to realize too. So it is very important to learn to let go and trust, and, you know, to some extent, like you say, train other people to assist in developing a business.
You talk about trust there, and you know that's something that comes over time when you build relationships with your team. But you know, I too, coming from a quality management background years ago in a corporate environment, I was definitely the perfectionist, and it was very difficult initially for me to let go. So I certainly understand how difficult it must have been for you to let go and step back and go, hey, look, you're probably better at this than what I am, but I really need to have a look. So look, it's already been, almost 40 minutes into the courts. I could just talk with you for hours, Andrew, but what's in the pipeline for you, Andrew? Are you working with Chris? What's happening? You got any projects underway?
Yeah, you know, one of our joint ventures is to create, sort of, both of us came from the entertainment world originally. Chris was a very famous DJ in England on the radio, and so together we're working on some TV projects, creating our own pilots for TV shows. So that's fun, and you know, it's actually great to be able to go back to that, back to our roots and back to really, you know, our core strengths as well. So that's fun. And like I say, you know, for me, launching the Travel Hacker and growing that's very exciting for me to go into a non-business niche, you know, which is it's presents a whole different sort of set of parameters, and it's great to do that because I've been, you know, in the business world, or, you know, business advice for a long time, but I am passionate about travel, and you know, it's
a good fit.
it's something that I'm really enjoying developing. So it's a fun show, and you know, for people that love travel, it's it's going to be really helpful to them.
And what we do at the end of the call, Andrew, is we normally just sort of say, look, we're going to put together a post and we're going to make available the links to these sorts of things, if that's all right with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds great.
So how can people get in contact with you? Where can they find you?
So the show that I mentioned earlier, which was my original show called Help My Business, that's available at same name as the show, helpmybusiness.com.
Yep.
The episodes are free, and if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner, you'll definitely get a lot of value out of that. And then the Travel Hacker, again, same domain name as the name of the show, the Travel Hacker, HACKER.com.
Right.
And my contact info is on both of them if someone wants to reach out.
Yep.
So those are my two major businesses at this point. Yeah.
Andrew, it's just been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Excited that I've been able to get some time with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Rick.